I declare that the Workers' Party has received financial contributions from certain members of the Lee family that are associated with the Oxley property, although that these were declared under all relevant regulations. Nevertheless, we have received neither requests nor guidance to speak on this matter, and the statements and questions that follow are entirely our own. Let me start with a very brief preamble. I understand the fundamental policy tension that rests, which is that the advisory board must confront. The site has clear, significant historical meaning for our nation, and in this sense, it is as much private property as it is one that metaphorically belongs to all of us. And also, the government has previously intervened to gazette private property as national monuments in the past, so in this regard, the decision is not unprecedented. However, the personal desire of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the original owner, to demolish the site is well known, as well as the application by the site's current owner, Mr. Lee Hsien Yang, to proceed with the demolition. I note that the government has yet to decide on whether, gazette notwithstanding, the site's buildings and structures will be preserved in the present form. And I also note the preservation will take at least a minimal step of removing all private living spaces in accordance with Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's wishes. Now, my clarifications may be bucketed into two main themes. First, how the National Heritage Board weighs the tension between public benefits and private preferences in their deliberations, and second, the options NHB is considering going forward. On the first question, will the minister share if there's a system that the advisory board follows in evaluating public interests versus private ones prior to invoking eminent domain to gazette a site? How are significant elements such as the property's architectural value or social-cultural significance weighed against development considerations such as potential future land use and development restrictions implied by the gazette? How much weight would the preferences of the owner for how the property should be treated given since there's historically never been any previous objections to an intended gazette? On the second, will the government consider a future course of action for the site that heavily favors privacy while preserving the decision to gazette? In particular, will it not consider not demolishing the buildings, but nevertheless closing the site to visitors unless explicit permission of the current owner has been granted? Alternatively, will the government consider dismantling the site's main structures and reconstructing these at the Founders Memorial? These approaches strike me as more respectful of both the public interest benefit of preserving elements of the site for posterity, while also accommodating the private property rights of the owner to do with a property as he or she wishes.
Acting Minister Neo.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for his two clarifications. I think on the first point, I just want to make a point that the PSMAB is an independent board made up of experts from different fields that are relevant to this subject matter, and their job is to assess the merits of each case independently, so there's no policy tension on their part. They do not consider other things like individuals' wishes. They are just scoring it based on technical merit. So the established process for which all national monuments are assessed includes both qualitative and quantitative assessment of the identified site's national significance, historical merit, and architectural design merit. And these criteria are all based on the international best practices for heritage assessments. The PSMAB will first consider if the identified site is nationally significant, such as whether it's directly linked to key events or people who have had a significant impact on our history. If it's assessed to have national significance, the PSMAB will then deliberate the site's historic and design merit from a technical perspective. For example, sites that have been assessed to be deeply relevant to these historic events or individuals would be considered to have strong historic merit. And then sites that have been assessed to be of national significance and of exceptional historic and or architectural design merit would then be considered worthy of preservation. And for the members' suggestion about the different configurations that can take place, okay, as part of subsequent development. I want to reiterate, first of all, that it's still premature for us to state because at this moment in time, the government has not made a decision as to whether it will be preserved, and if preserved, it will be acquired. I think the second point is that, as I mentioned in my ministerial statement, our colleagues and our technical experts have not had the chance to visit the site. They need to go in, they need to assess all the different buildings and structures of the site, weigh the costs and benefits before coming to a recommendation. And the third point would, as I stated in my ministerial statement, at this moment in time, all options are open when it comes to the final configuration. So some of those options that the member suggested could well be possible, but at this point in time, it is premature to comment.